So welcome everybody. It is lovely to be back, whatever that means. But it is nice to meet up, even if it's virtually. Me sitting in my solitary confinement in the Fens. So it's nice to see you all. A lot of talk in non-duality is about no self. And I mean, a lot of what I say is about no self, but it's kind of misleading because it can only be heard, I only heard it, that I would know the absence of myself. I would know no self. I would know when myself is gone. And there's no greater joke, really, is there? I mean, yeah, you don't have to be a genius to see the flaw in that as a possibility. That's not what's being suggested. There's no knowing self from no self. The illusion is that I know myself. That's what seemingly doesn't turn up. That I'm certain of who I am. That I am who I am. Now, you already don't know that. That's what I'm suggesting. You already don't know. But it is a powerful illusion, delusion. That I do know. And from I know myself, all other conviction in knowing, everything else that I say I know, comes from that. There's simply no knowing. But I'm afraid of not knowing. I convinces itself that knowledge and understanding, knowing what the fuck is going on, is essential. Well, there is some wonderful news. This is the most wonderful news. You already have no idea what the hell is going on, but you suffer under the delusion that you do. That's all. It's beyond simple because it isn't actually a realization. It's not an awakening. It's not an enlightenment. There already is only light that's fully inclusive of dark. There is nothing new. There is nothing else. There is nothing more for you to find. Now, in the story, it may well seem like there's a lot to lose, which is everything you know for certain. Reality is what most human beings call that knowledge. I know what's real, and I can distinguish real from unreal. Nonsense. Bullshit. You haven't got any idea of reality from unreality. You haven't got any idea, well, only ideas of true from untrue, fact from fiction. And that's where most human beings live, in that conviction that I know the difference between knowing and not knowing. real and unreal, true and false, fact and fiction. Do you fuckers like? You have no idea already. So if you're waiting until you have no idea, you're waiting for something that can't happen. Because if you're waiting for not knowing, that's already the case. Trouble is, and it can feel like the most serious trouble you've ever got yourself into, is that you won't like not knowing. That is the very ground that you stand on. That is who you have taken yourself, taken life to be, my life, the ownership, the possession of this life. When this is ownerless, this can't be possessed. You can't have it, no matter how much you want it. And so that can sound so negative that you can't have it, but that feels the only compassionate thing to say, because the wanting, the desire to have it all, to have what you've imagined you could have, is suffering. Gives you something to do endlessly. How many times have you thought that you'd made some progress, you'd moved towards whatever you'd imagined you could move towards, only to find that, of course, you hadn't moved at all. And so you went off seeking the next step. So wonderfully, there is no journey. There's no traveling. There's no path. No getting closer or further away. And wonderfully, no human beings have ever had whatever you have desired. Being human is being human. Simple beyond simplicity. No masters, no gurus, no teachers, no great ones. An equality that is absolute. And so, whether you like the word love or not, it may well feel like a love that doesn't require any love. An unconditional love, simply because everything is as it is. That requires no hope or dreams or fantasy, but is inclusive of all of that as well. There's no exclusion. Even exclusion is included. It can feel disconcerting. I was talking with my friend Trey when I was in Asheville, and he did a little film, which I think he's gonna try and put a film together, and we played checkers. Trey and I. He's got this idea of doing talks with so-called non-duality speakers and having chats with them in different situations and making some kind of movie out of it. And so he made a start with me, and we played checkers, which isn't checkers, it's drafts, by the way, in English. Ridiculous name, drafts, but there we are. And it was really sweet. But he said, I found it hilarious because he said, I said about losing everything. It can feel like losing everything. Everything will be lost. Everything that you said you have. And he said, yeah, that can be a little disconcerting, he said. I went, well, there's the fucking understatement of the century. A little disconcerting, losing everything you've ever said you had. Everyone, everything, every ability, everything that you held dear. So it could be a little disconcerting. But as Anita says, it's just a story. And in a very real way, of course, none of that happened. The only confirmation I could have of the happening would be talking to Trey, and he would dispute what had happened with me. I mean, you know, really what happened. Just memories. And memories just appear fresh and new. Every time you tell a story of what's happened, it's a new story. There are no old stories. Stories are always fresh. And really, it's all we have. And I've said it a few times, but this is the story, that it's all stories. But when there's no distinction between true stories and false stories, fact and fiction, there's liberation and freedom in that. Every human being just telling a story. Beautiful stories, dreadful stories.
And if they're telling the same story over and over again, dull stories too.
Say again?
And if they're telling the same story over and over again, it's a dull story too.
True. Boring your friends to death with the same old stories. But you must have noticed that every time you tell an old story in the retelling, it's never exactly the same, is it?
No. And it's always freshly dull.
Yeah. You can just improve slightly on the dullness. Well, if you have any questions, then don't be afraid to ask. If you have anything you'd like to share, then please share it. If you have something, a topic or something you'd like me to speak about, then by all means do that as well.
Sophie says in the chat,
yeah,
if I get sad or angry each time I think about a particular person or what has happened, is this unknown too? It feels like I know why I'm sad or angry.
Well, we like a reason for emotion. Self feels much more comfortable. That's what therapy is, really, you could say. If I get a reasonable explanation, a lot of people go to therapy because they feel I've got these emotions. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't even know what do they mean? What do they mean? Where are they coming from? Why are they happening? And so self feels much more comfortable with an explanation. But just like everything else, feelings just appear. And it's very natural for human beings to make sense of them by explaining them with a story. Everything is equally as real as it's unreal. What I'm suggesting is that the illusion is that you know the difference. But it's always illusory that you know why this is happening, including feelings.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
It's not Helmer.
No, I guess that I remember I've called you Helmer before.
That's right, yeah. This is my wife's Zoom thing. She
Right.
does German lessons on this. So, I mean, at the moment, the world's going crazy with fact checkers, isn't it? And
With what checkers? What checkers?
Fact checkers. Fact. F-A-C-T.
Yeah, I don't know. What are they? I mean,
Well, it's people that set themselves up to establish what is real.
oh yeah.
In a world where there's thousands of stories flying around all over the place,
Right.
and nobody quite knows what's real and what's not real, and there's a sort of little bit of insecurity bubbling around.
Oh, massively so. Yeah.
And like you say, the self, it likes to know what's real, and it likes its stories of what's bloody real, mate.
I know. I'll tell you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like it's more intense. Maybe it's just me getting older than it's ever been. The frenzy almost of.
Well, the difference, for me, the difference is just the internet. Now you just if you're on the internet, then you watch TV and you're on the internet, then you're bombarded with hundreds of stuff, with hundreds of stories, of hundreds of explanations of why this is like it is, of why things are happening as they're happening. Now, in the past, if we tell a story of how it would have been for humanity without any technology, you would have had your parents and you would have your friends that you knew in the village, and they would have told you what's real.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you really didn't have much choice about looking at the variety of explanations of reality.
Yeah.
Because you probably only had one, two, probably maybe, and then you could choose between two.
Yeah.
You know, you could choose between God or not. That was about it, really, probably.
Yeah.
And really, you didn't have a choose. You couldn't choose not God, because you'd be ostracized, because everyone believed in God. And God was the explanation for everything.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I mean, it's not surprising. We can forget, if you're in a culture which is pretty agnostic, if not atheist, like the UK, then we can forget. It's easy to forget that most human beings today have an absolute belief in God, whichever God they've been socialized to believe in, but a belief in God, and God answers all the questions, because the answer is God to every question.
Yeah.
With a little bit of free will for you, so that you get a little tiny bit of choice. But generally, you know, that's why God's still so popular. It seems obvious to me. God's popular because God provides an answer for the mystery. This is an absolute mystery. No one knows what's happening. No one knows how it's happening, why it's happening, what's happening.
Yeah.
but self is uncomfortable with that and looks for comfort, and the comfort is in some absolute knowledge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
doesn't matter which of those stories.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you know, it gives people something to do, because it will fuel most arguments.
Yeah.
You know, because if somebody has an absolute belief and conviction in what's true, a true explanation of why things are as they are, then they'll really enjoy telling you that.
I have a few friends like that. I try and avoid the subject, but
True. Yeah. Well, it's funny because now, I mean, I was really argumentative because I had my beliefs, and I was, especially when I was a devout atheist. Now, devout atheists are the most argumentative people of all, I've noticed, more than religious believers, ironically, because they have a total conviction in their non-belief. Of course, non-belief is just as much a belief as.
Yeah. It's another big story, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've come to think of science as science will answer all the questions and will solve all the problems. You might have noticed that's really not how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, thanks. I've forgotten your name.
Sorry, Jeremy.
Jeremy, yeah. Hi, Jeremy.
Yeah, hi.
Razia has a hand up.
Razia.
Oh, you're muted, Razia. Yeah.
Tim, I just want to know, like, is nothing real?
Is nothing here?
Is nothing real?
Is nothing real?
Yeah.
No. No. How would nothing be real? No. I mean, there's nothing means nothing. Really, I mean, nothing is just all words are empty. We give them meaning, but of all the words that are, nothing is probably the emptiness, along with emptiness. And really all it is a suggestion. It's a suggestion. Emptiness and nothing are a suggestion that everything is normal.
Okay, if we're distinguishing between the two, then we have no things, and we have nothing. So,
well,
nothing real?
I'm not really distinguishing between no thing and nothing. I mean, we just get into semantics. It's a waste of time, but I don't mind doing it because I like words. But nothing and no thing are the same, and everything is no thing and nothing.
Okay, for something to be real.
Huh?
If I want to say something is real, then what criteria am I using to say it's real or not real?
Everything is real. Everything is unreal. Everything is something. Everything is nothing. And there's no knowing the something from nothing.
Okay.
So
is there a shared reality? Is there a shared reality?
no, we can't share anything. You can't share anything with anyone else. You can attempt to, we have words for that, but in terms of understanding, no, not at all. What we have as a shared reality is what we would call is duality. That's the shared reality where we live between you and me.
Okay, I can agree with you on that there is this conceptual overlay, there is this like projection, right? And each of us is projecting a different reality. So in that sense, there is no reality because there's no shared reality as such.
Well, if there is reality, it can't be known. So that's the end of reality, isn't it? Well,
then what about,
if you want to know reality, then you're just chasing your tail, literally, aren't you? You are a dog chasing its tail, because it's the tail's real, and I'll just keep chasing it. Don't get me wrong, that can be fun. Dogs like chasing their tail, seemingly, and that can be fun in the search, in the seeking. But if there's nothing to be found, because this is all,
yes,
there is no more reality, and there's no knowing.
right. I'm agreeing with you on in a way, because I'm saying that we all projecting something different onto that's why there can be no reality. That we all see the world differently.
Yeah, well, and you could say that's reality, if you want.
Yeah.
You could say there's as many realities as there are human beings, but then you might have to take every other being, every mammal, their reality. So, and then, I mean, I don't know the reality of a fly, but it won't be like mine or yours. The reason that we can share, I mean, the miracle, I mean, this is miraculous that we can I can sit in front of a computer and I can share this. I mean, it's beyond wonder, because this is completely alone. The aloneness of this if this hits, the aloneness, here it was the aloneness that was the most devastating, the most profound, the most like being smacked in the face, that there is no possibility of sharing. I can't know you, Raza. So, Razia, and you can't know me. There is no one to be known. And so the aloneness of this, I can't emphasize enough that is not what most seekers are seeking. Of course,
I understand what you are saying, because I remember when I realized that each of us projects a different reality, I also felt that. I felt my aloneness, like no one could know me, like, you know?
No.
So I can agree with that.
It was very devastating here when, I mean, I wanted to be seen by the other because I could see myself, I know myself, I wanted to be known. You could say that's the illusion of falling in love. For most human beings, the illusion of falling in love is that I found someone who can really see me. For the first time, I'm being seen in a way that I've never been seen before. I mean, it's such a beautiful romantic story. It's simply not true. There is no one to be seen. You will never be seen by yourself or by anyone else. There's no one to see you. And you will never know another. There are no others without yourself.
But yet at some level, I'm sorry, I'm going on, but at some level we seem to connect at like a brain level. Will you say that there's such a thing?
Well,
my brain connects with your brain.
I mean, I don't know about the brain, so I wouldn't say any of that, but I would say paradoxically, the impossibility of being known and being seen by another, and of seeing another and knowing another, you could say the absolute intimacy of me and you becoming one, that great romantic fantasy of union, whether it's with another human being or God, however you fantasized it, you've probably fantasized both. I think most seekers do. The impossibility of that feels far more loving, far more compassionate, much more intimate than the fantasy of connection. The impossibility of connection, there are not two to be connected. There are not two or many. There is no connection. No, it's not that everything is connected. There are no separate things to be connected. There is no possibility of connection. That's unconditional love. Because of course it's unconditional. There is no possibility. Impossibility is unconditional. Possibility is always conditional.
Okay, if what Darren says that there's no truth, then it's all self-love.
Yeah, well, self-love's a bit of self-love, of course. But I mean, I just think self-love is just it's just the flip side of self-loathing. I mean, if I think of my story as me, I just flip between self-love and self-loathing, and sometimes both at the same time. There's no peace in that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Tim.
Natalie.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm much better, thanks.
Oh, good. Good. I heard about all that.
Yeah.
Hey. You know how there's no one, well, there's just no way to know, like, the thoughts. No one's deciding the thoughts coming in. No one's deciding what comes out of the mouth, you know?
Yeah.
So I haven't been listening to much lately, and just hearing this today, right now, I'm just like, my God, it's Willy Wonka. I need to do like some deep breathing before I float away. It's just like, what? You just can't even decide how you're going to feel about what's being said. It's crazy. It's just like, I don't know. I just wanted to say hi, pretty much.
Well, thanks for saying hi. Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah. I see some other people on here that were in Asheville. Hi, everyone.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's a
I
few.
saw Kelly. Yeah.
Thanks, Natalie.
Okay. On that same topic, talk about the choiceless choice.
Are you telling me what to speak about, Natalie?
Yes, I'm
Yes,
trying
get on with
to.
it. Talk about the
I'm
choiceless
not.
choice.
Wait, I'm not. It's
No,
coming
it's
out.
fine.
Yeah.
You want me to talk about the choiceless choice?
Yeah. Tell me a story.
Do I get a choice?
No. Well, a choiceless choice.
All I'd say about choice is it often gets leveled at me and anyone else who speaks about this that what's being said is saying that there's no choice. That's not what's being said, ever. There is the appearance of choice. There's just no chooser. Now they sound, that can easily sound like, well, what's the difference between that? Well, no difference really, but what's been suggested is not that human beings won't appear to have choices. That's very different from saying you are free and powerful and autonomous and godlike in choosing your own destiny, your own fortune, your own power. Bullshit. That is the crock of shit that everyone has been fed, and boy, does that create misery. Basically, if you've made shit choices, it's your fault. And you wonder why most human beings are full of shame, full of guilt, full of remorse, full of self-loathing, self-pity, because I could have chosen other. So it's not that there's no choice, it's that it's the choiceless choice, as Natalie wanted me to say.
Thank you.
Michael has his hand up.
Hi, Michael.
I
Oh,
say, I think
let me
Tom
just,
was
can I
first.
just, you know, yeah, I was going to say, I'd just jump in and say, sorry, Tom. Maybe we'll let Tom go first. He had his hand up. Yeah, we'll come back to you, Michael. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Darren.
Tim, what would you say about, what do you have to say about just the nature of thought? I mean,
Hmm. I'm not sure.
this thing called,
I'm not sure thought has a nature, really.
yes, this thing, I mean, words, I guess, are thought.
What do you mean by the nature of thought? What
Well, you know, like Yuji would say, you know, like what's going on, you know, like thought can't touch it. He would say things like that. You know, he would say the body is so complicated that thought can't touch it. You know, and there are things that are just seem like there's like absolute mysteries, you know.
Yeah.
And yet we come up with stories about what's going on.
Yeah. Well, thought.
Thought can't touch it.
Yeah, thought is usually an attempt to understand and explain, isn't it? And make sense of.
And yet we can't seem to get by without it. I mean, like, it's just for practical purposes. If we're going to build something, we have to kind of use thought.
Oh yeah, for doing anything constructive, that is the wonder of human beings. Thought is the wonder of being human, really.
There's this additional problem, it seems to be, that we're kind of caught in this grammar of subject objects too, you know, with like nouns, when we know that everything that's arising is sort of going away, and yet we try to solidify everything with these nouns, and everything's just kind of verbing, you know. That's sort of like, that's been said.
I mean, I tend to not even say, I think verbing is saying too much, because it, you know, it still gives it some solidity, that it's actually, but it's like a moving object, verbing. Yeah. It's not even that.
Yeah.
But I will say thought is only a problem for me.
It seems like
thought in itself is empty. It's completely empty. But I want thought to make things real, and so thought can have the sense of creating reality.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the drama is about, like, you know, people have an idea about the future and then they have this thought, and you kind of need that. I mean, maybe that's the nature of thought, to just go forward and plan things.
Yeah.
But there's also these sort of like, I don't know how to say it, but you get caught up in these dramas of what's not happening, you know, like this is not happening. You create this whole story about what's not happening, and then you're like in the drama, stuck in it.
Oh yeah.
And that's sort of the,
I mean, I really don't have anything to say about that. I just think that that's absolutely natural. I'm not talking about you know, without, so if you don't have a conviction in the reality of yourself, then all of that planning, thinking, that will all stop. And then no, because then there would be nothing. I mean, without thoughts, without naming, and without telling a story in thought, or whether words are spoken or they're thought, they create reality.
It doesn't seem like we really know why we're doing what we're doing, though, because there's sort of like these urges just come about. My urges are going to be different than yours.
Yeah.
And you're looking around in nature, you know, like birds fly south, and you know, and all these animals around here doing their own thing. So those urges just sort of come out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
not really like there's someone behind there thinking about this thing and going to figure it out.
And the thoughts come out of nowhere, Tom.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, we make a lot of thought as though I can control my thoughts. You know, there's a lot of self-help about managing thoughts.
The problem I run into mostly with people, though, it's like, it seems like people identify with their thoughts. I mean, like their thoughts are them, you know what I mean? It's kind of
Yeah.
like talking to them, you get that
Mhm.
feeling. Can't say anything like the kind of things that I usually like to talk about. People will shut me down in 2 seconds, you know, but it's like I'm saying it here. But in my normal life, I can't say these kind of things out in the public
No.
because they say it's stoner talk or something, you know.
Well, why do you think I'm a non-duality speaker? Just so I can talk about this without being punched in the face in the pub.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's the same here.
In my story, I went to meetings for years so that I could meet people and not be ostracized and not thought of as insane. And it's like, and then I thought, well, I could speak about it and it would be just the same. Then people would come and join me rather than me join them. But it's just the same. Speaking about this is exactly the same as going to a meeting. It feels like that. I just like the sound of my own voice.
No, I get that, because most people around here think I'm crazy man living on the hill, you know, but it's just, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's not like I don't like people. I just like being alone. It's just, you know,
well,
it's just sort of like, people tell me their stories and I'm just like, I can't wait for them to stop talking sometimes, you know.
Oh no, that's very common. I mean, there isn't anyone here who doesn't empathize with you with that, Tom. Please stop talking. By the way, that's leveled at me as well, so that goes for everyone.
I don't experience that listening to you though.
But you know, I know what you mean. Because everyone wants to tell their story.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Thoughts. I know exactly what Tom's talking about, because for me, thoughts are so important, but really thoughts are just so empty. That's the beauty. And when thoughts are really beautiful, when they're meaningless, I mean, thought says they mean what thought says they mean. Well, they don't. They mean sweet FA. They don't mean shit. Beautiful thoughts. I mean, thought, you can't even hold a thought. Thought's gone. And you can't even tell, there's no time span. Thought's quite wonderful. I mean, you can have repetitive thoughts. So you could look at your watch and, well, I've been thinking about this for 10 minutes now. But really, if you try and pin a thought, you know, you can't pin a thought like you could pin a butterfly, kill it and make it dead. Thought's such a living, I mean, it disappears as it appears. I mean, that's how empty it is. And it is the same with everything. This appearance, which is all there is, disappears as it appears. The illusion is the space between the appearance and the disappearance, between birth and death. There is no space between. Now, when we communicate with each other, that's all we have to talk about. We can only talk about the space between, but there is none. It's all story. It's all we have. It's beautiful. And you'll like some people's stories, and then others, just as Tom said, you just can't wait for them to shut up. Please stop telling me your story. I can't stand anymore. But again, there's just preference. You find some people's stories interesting and others incredibly boring. So what? Sorry, Michael, you've been waiting a long time. Have you forgotten anything that you were going to say?
No. Hi, Tim. I may have misunderstood you over the years, but it seems that a common theme, almost a fallback position after everything has washed away, there is love, or that love remains. That's a gross oversimplification, but it seems to me that within your speaking, there is that theme that after everything disappears, there is love. And I wanted to ask you about that.
No, there is no love.
Okay.
And there is no love to remain.
Mm.
Nothing remains. There is no remaining. So of course love couldn't remain.
Okay.
The love is in the living. There is no love in, there's no love in emptiness. Emptiness is empty of everything. It's just, yeah, it's nothing. It's just a way of saying, no, nothing remains, even love.
Okay.
But in this, which is all we can speak of, there is an undeniable love. Now, when you say, if you take everything away, that remains, no, I have no sense of that, because there's nothing to be removed nor to remain.
Okay.
I guess you're asking me, you know, do I see love like a lot of religious people would use God? So there's God remains. Is that what you're sort of asking me?
No, I've seen it in your writings, and I'm sure I misinterpreted, taking it out of context. That this undercurrent of love, and I can see a little bit, I think, along that, I can think a little bit along that line. There is a tribal feeling of unicity, of common language, of a shared language. There is, I think, that we exist only as reflections within each other's imaginary worlds, as holograms, dancing holograms. And I can see that as love, as a caring that is ultimately selfish. If part of my tribe is sick, then I'm sick. The fire builder is gone, then I'm at a loss. The hunter is wounded, I'm affected. So I do love my tribe. I do love particularly my genetic relations. I see that as a very deep and profound love.
Yeah.
But it's not the love that the platonic love that everyone has idealized.
Well, I mean, I've always shied away from talking about love because I know it's so contentious. But then it's undeniable.
I was thinking about thought too, what you said. I think when we think of thought as a thing, as an actual entity, then we try to dissect it and understand it, and it's not a thing at all.
No. But then nothing is a thing, and thought, actually thought is the creation of things. You know, thought, you could say thought is God. Thought created everything, the whole world and the universe, depending on your education. Depending on what you could think about. Yeah.
So Jim is in the chat. Sorry, Marcin, I'll come on to you just a sec. Jim is in the chat and he was talking about emotion, and we need to put a thought to something. We need to put a thought to make it something. So what about emotions? Without thought, how would we distinguish between different emotions?
You wouldn't distinguish between different emotions without a thought. No. Without a label, no. I mean, how close is sadness to laughter? I mean, sobbing, you know, like I mean, real proper crying. And how close is that to laughing your head off? I mean, really physically, of what seems to be happening for the body, they're pretty indistinguishable, aren't they? We all know that, you know, laughing and crying. And there aren't many of you who haven't experienced laughing and then tears, like tears of joy, of laughing, of humor, but then they can easily become sorrow, labeling, and really you can't tell the difference. No, without the labels, emotion is human beings being human.
Marcin has the hand up. Go ahead, Marcin. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Marcin.
Can you hear me? Hi, I'm so happy. This is so beautiful. I'm so happy to meet you all. I don't know what I was going to say something, but I don't know what now.
That's all right.
Let's see what comes up. This is so cool. It's just really so cool. 25 years ago, well, let's go to yesterday morning. I had this horrible dream that my son was so thin and pale and he was dying, and I was so anxious, and I woke up anxious, and it took me a few minutes to realize that my son had died 25 years ago, and I was so relieved that this was a dream.
Right.
And that brought up the experience after he died.
Right.
It was the most profound experience of my life. I felt him enter into my heart area. It was the most profound, exquisitely, indescribably sweet feeling that I ever had in my entire life. And I used to say my son was the light of my life, but when he died, and we were very close, but it was only in death that we were one. And it was just a profound, life-changing experience. Anyway, that was the most wonderful thing that ever happened in my life. And this is like the coolest thing that's ever happened in my life. All my life, I guess I grew up wondering what was going on, and thinking everyone else in the world knew what was going on but me. And then when I first heard Tony Parsons, and I said, nobody knows what's going on. This is cool. This is too cool. And I just love it. And I love you all. And thank you.
Oh, thanks, Marcy. Thank you.
Jim's got his hand up. Go ahead,
so back to emotion, when we feel something, like if we feel sad, what are we really experiencing? I mean, or are we not? Because obviously we're putting a label to what we feel because we have a past of labels that we put on it. So if someone told us that sadness, the sadness is really joy, we would experience something different because there'd be a different label on it and we wouldn't feel the sadness, we would feel joy.
I'm not sure about that, Jim. That sounds a little bit too optimistic for me. No, I just think if you look at, I don't know, you look at a 1-year-old child, doesn't have words for the emotions that are being felt. You could say being experienced, but without the language, without the words, being experienced really doesn't cut it. It's, the illusion is the experiencing, the experiencer, and without the experiencer, without me having the experience, it's really difficult to talk about experience. And experience. So your question sort of is redundant in a way. Well, it's just semantic in a very real way. That so we think we know what emotion's being felt because we have words for it, but really, does that alter the actual sensation, the bodily feeling of emotion? I'm suggesting not. What it does is it comforts the self in that now I have words for it, I have labels for it, I feel more comfortable, I understand it. And then once I know what I can label this feeling, then I can go into the story of how it happened, why it happened. And then I can go into the story of how I can keep myself safe from feeling this if I don't like it, if it threatens me, or if I really like it, how I can make this happen more frequently.
Right. The label connects us to the story then.
All the words are
words
are story. And that
right.
And there aren't any thoughts without words. Now, I don't know that a 1-year-old child without language doesn't have thoughts. But what would those thoughts be? Well, you could just think about this. Think about what thoughts are without words.
No thoughts.
No.
But there would still be the energy of whatever that feeling is then.
Absolutely, of course.
So
don't we all know, and in a very, thought doesn't like this, because but isn't feeling, doesn't it have a reality that thought can't touch? Because all thought is doing is labeling.
Right.
Is naming and describing and attempting to, never does, but attempts to do, explain, make sense of, understand.
As opposed to just being.
which is all there is. But
Yeah.
the thoughts aren't not being, the thoughts are being. There isn't anything that's not being. That's why I could talk about unconditional love is only in the being. This is being unconditionally as it is. And by this, I just mean whatever's going on, whatever seems to be going on, whatever appears, whatever seems to be happening, whatever labels, whatever words you like. It doesn't matter about the words. The words are utterly irrelevant. You will like some ways that this is spoken about. You can't speak about this. The words are pointless pointers. You can't point at this. To point at this, you would have to point in all directions. And no direction. Well, good luck with that, pointing at that. I mean, so all directions away, all directions towards, inside, outside.
And nowhere.
And to nothing, yeah. So good luck. One of the wonders of speaking about this makes it easy to speak about. I really enjoy speaking about this because I know with an utter conviction that no one can get this right. You will like some people speaking about this and others you won't like. That means fuck all. It just means you like and dislike. But you will say, I like it, therefore it must be close. It resonates more. It's closer to the truth. Bollocks. You just like it. That's all. So what? You like Leicester cheese more than cheddar cheese, maybe. That's how significant your resonance, which is preference, really. You know how precious your resonance is. Oh, God, I lived in that shit for years. Resonance meant truth to me. It resonated with me. Therefore, yeah, I'm going to be listening to him every day, every free second I've fucking got. But there is no, no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's nice listening to people you like listening to. Of course it is. But don't think for a moment that it's closer to the truth, that it's more real, and that the ones you dislike, they're charlatans. Well, they're just blaggers. They're just bullshitters, all of them. All they're doing is parroting Tony Parsons. I get that.
Razia has a hand up.
Okay, the only thing I was like thinking of, thinking about was, do you think children and animals are the same in the sense that they are instinctive? Like, I mean, like the child cries, right, when it's hungry and stuff like that. So maybe there's no thought, but they're instinctive till they are at the stage where
well, that's the superiority. I mean, there's human superiority in a nutshell, that we can control our instincts and manage them. So human beings know they're instinctual animals, really. We all know this, but we've been taught from a very early age that that's dangerous as hell. And we're not like the beasts of burden. Even, you know, even the sentient beasts, we're far superior. We are the very pinnacle of evolution. We are at the top of the tree. Well, I'm suggesting there isn't a fucking tree.
No,
and our arrogance, don't get me wrong, because this is human, of course, I have great affinity with other human beings. We're in the story, we're pack animals. We rely on our, you know, you've seen the chimps and the bonobo documentaries. Well, I mean, the similarities between them and us is remarkable. And we self is afraid of instinct. You could call instinct of nature, of human nature. And so self is the delusion that I can manage and control and be master of my own destiny.
No, like when you feel animals, right? You like when you touch them, and you just feel like, you know, like they just like resonance.
Well,
and children are the same. I don't know. Like when I feel a child and I carry the child,
yeah,
I just feel that.
Children are only like it up to about the age of 6 or 7, generally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then of course their self gets big enough to assert itself, and then of course then usually there's conflict between the adults and the children. But we all know how wonderful it is to have a cat sit on your lap, and I'm still bereft at the loss of my beautiful cat, who whenever I sat down in the house, he just came and sat on my lap. And I mean, if you want to know the peace that passes all understanding, then just have a cat sit on your lap and purr and stroke the cat. Life doesn't get much better than that. Simple. Too simple.
Yeah, even children are like that. That up to a certain age, like. Yeah. And when you look at them, there's just love in their eyes. I mean, I know we established now there's no such thing as love.
Well, Razia, it doesn't matter how old you get, you know, how old the body gets, we're those children. I mean, that's always forgotten. I mean, I don't want to get too Jesus about it, but that's all he ever went on about. We think we're, you know, this illusion of being grown up, of being in control. It's never true. It's nonsense. Doesn't matter how old you are, you're still a child. And of course, what's the greatest joy? When do you feel joy? Doing childish shit. Isn't that the truth? The more childish, the more joy.
Yeah, and it usually ends up in an accident.
Oh, it's going to end in tears. But then that's part of the joy, of course. Yeah, it almost needs to end in tears. Doing stuff your mother told you not to do is, of course, the best stuff. We all know that. It's raining, put a raincoat on. No, I'm just going to go and run outside in the rain and dance about in the puddles. Doesn't get any better, does it?
It's like when Marcus and me a few weeks ago, we decided to go down a kid's slide, a big kid's metal slide. We said, come on, so we ran up to the top, went down. But then, of course, I turned around as we were going down, and then Marcus is pulling me this way, and I fly off backwards and nearly break my back.
Oh, I wish I was
there.
Yeah.
You know,
It was fun though, wasn't it, Marcus?
Well, you can tell I've been away because I've missed it. So we've had quite a long meeting there. Unless anyone else has got anything pressing to say, we'll call it a day there. I'll just let you know that I'm at the Philadelphia Association in Hampstead on the 17th of June. So that's in 3 weeks' time. Be lovely to see some of you there. I think I'm going to go and see Tony Parsons because he's in Hampstead the week before. I shouldn't be plugging Tony. He gets too many people anyway. But I think I might go because that's a bit like a reunion. That's a bit like when you had a school reunion and you go, but the difference is rather than talking about, how your career's going and how your grandchildren, bragging about your children's success and your grandchildren, it's like who's empty, who's gone, who's nobody now. And I'm not even joking. I mean, it is a joke, but I'm not joking. But it is great to meet. I don't know. It's like this, but in the flesh, because it'd be lovely. I mean, if we could meet with 40 of us together, it would be wonderful, but it's not the easiest thing to do. So thank you, Lord, for the wonder of the World Wide Web. I'm guessing it's God's work. Just guessing. Oh, thanks, everyone. Lovely to see you all. I've had a lot of fun, so thank you for allowing me to do that. I really appreciate it, and lovely to see you all, and hopefully see you next Thursday.
Hey, Tim, I just have something really quick to say about the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
This is kind of funny that I would share this, but who knew you could get divorced? I got divorced today on Zoom.
Zoom.
It seemed so funny to me. The judge was right there. My lawyer was right there. Everybody was there. And finally, the judge made a joke. He's like, is anybody think this funny that we're doing
thanks for sharing that. I didn't know you could get divorced on Zoom. No.
You can get divorced on Zoom. Yeah, because I'm not back in the state where I filed for divorce. So they said, sure, we'll do it on Zoom.
Well, congratulations, Karen.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it was long overdue, but things you can do on Zoom. There you go.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for the meeting. It was great. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, thanks, everyone. Lovely to see you.
It was great.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye-bye.
Love you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye.